All right. Well, I, again, just want to be mindful of everyone's time. So we are going to go ahead and get started today. My name is Kendra. I think I've met most of you. And then Jamie is also going to be presenting today as well. And we're both just really thankful to be here and excited to be sharing this time with you. We have a jam-packed agenda, so we are going to be cranking through these. But today we're going to be talking about snack attack hacks and 4 tips to smarter snacking. First of all, I'd just like to mention you're in good hands. We love to snack, both Jamie and I and Amanda, so we understand snacking. It's just part of life, and we'll actually talk about that as day 2. But before we dive in, I want to do a quick little poll here. So if you can take a second into the chat box, I'd love for you to take a guess on the average number of food choices we make in a given day. So just go ahead and throw some answers in the chat box. The average number of food choices we make on any given day. And I'll wait for responses because I'm going to be talking a little bit, so you have a few minutes. But go ahead and throw it in. So we have 8, 10, 15, 7, 25, 30, okay, 25 after 8 p.m. Yes, Walter. Okay, that is great. 100, good, Megan. Yeah, so I'm going to give you that answer in just a second, so stay tuned. But before we go there, I just want to mention snacking is definitely on the rise. It has become a normal part of our everyday lives. And as our lifestyles change, so do the way that we eat or our eating habits. For us now, we've been home 8.5 weeks, which means that causes change in our food choices, our access to food, our habits that we form, and different ways that we associate food with different feelings or emotions or daily activities. So that is no change from what's been happening over the last 5 years, because these past 5 years, the snack industry revenue has grown to $46.9 billion. It is definitely on the rise, and most companies are coming up with creative ways to make snacking healthier and more convenient for people because it is such a normal part of so many people's lives. So going back to that question, on average, how many food choices do we make a day? Drum roll. We actually make on average about 200 food choices on any given day. That's a lot. If you think about it, think about just waking up in the morning. So you start with your choice of breakfast. Not only what are you going to eat, but what are you going to have to drink with it? Are you going to have coffee? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Are you going to add cream? Are you going to have sugar? Are you going to buy it on your way into work? Are you going to make it at home? There are so many choices that we're making that we don't even necessarily realize that we're making. So when you think about 200 food choices on any given day, it can be very easy to not even recognize that we are making those choices. But if we go back to snacking and we think about even just snacking and the food choices that we're making in that sense, what we want to talk about today is how we can snack smarter. Not necessarily eliminate snacking, because snacking in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just we want to make smart choices about it. Snacking used to be considered junk food. Back in the day, that's pretty much, it was always chips, cookies, and that was about it. But over the past decade, it's really evolved, and the majority of our snacking is become part of our dietary needs that we take in throughout the day. For some people, it's even replaced traditional meals. So today is about tips to snacking smarter, not eliminating snacking, but also just understanding like why we snack and where are we getting our foods from and how are we making those choices and how can we adjust some of our patterns to aid us in making some healthier food choices. So today, with all of this in mind, first of all, just want to mention that there are a lot of different choices that we're making about food choices, and then we want to be more mindful about it, but also this is normal. So 95% of American adults eat a snack at least once a day. 70% have more than one snack a day, about 2 or 3. Also, just kind of a fun fact for our children, about 27% of our child's total calorie intake for the day comes from snacking. I think for parents, that's no surprise. I feel like my daughter is like snacking every 10 minutes, but it's a big part of their dietary requirements for the day. Here's the thing though, there are so many factors that impact our food choices. We have our biological determinants. So those are things such as our hunger, our appetite, and taste. Then there's the economic factors. Now that's going to be our cost, our income, our availability. We also have physical factors such as our access, our education, our skills. Can we cook? Can we not? The time that we have. There's social, and that's going to be culture, family, peers, and meal patterns. And then there's the psychological. Now that's like our mood, our stress, our guilt. Those are big ones. And then we have our attitudes, which is our beliefs and our knowledge about food. So we're going to head into the next slide, and we're going to talk about tip number 1, which is check your emotions at the door. So we know that snacking is normal. Already got that covered. We know that it happens. Yep, we get that. But what are some of the things that can cause us to snack in a way that might not be most beneficial for us? First of all, stress. Psychological stress is a common feature in our lives. It happens all the time, and especially with some of the changes that we've recently faced, we can be facing stress in a way that we maybe aren't used to facing. There's different things that are happening, that are going on, that's causing us to have the impact of stress differently than what we are used to. So people who are feeling calmer tend to make healthier food choices. Whereas if you're feeling frazzled, you tend to make less healthy food choices. Now, that's not necessarily shocking, but at the same time, it makes sense. When you are stressed out after a meeting, or maybe you just had a really frustrating project that you were working on, or your kids are driving you nuts because they're running circles around you while you're trying to teach a group exercise class, all of those things happen and they can kind of razzle us a little bit. And if we are hungry and need a snack, it's good for us to stop and take a second and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? What emotion is happening in me? If you are stressed, try to do something else first before choosing that snack option to calm that stress down, to just make yourself kind of breathe and relax, take 10 minutes, and then go back and make a food choice. And likely it'll be healthier as long as you're a little bit calmer. Also, we all have our, what I like to call our vice. Knock the door. We all have our vice, things that we go to, things that we do typically. So for me, for example, mine is growing up as a kid, we always had dessert after dinner. It just was part of what we did. And so now I like to have dessert after dinner or after a meal. And that's not necessarily like a bad thing. It's just part of how I grew up. It's part of who I am. And so knowing that about me, what are some things that if you're stressed in your past, you know, what was something that you would go to when you were stressed? You would probably choose different choices, right? So think about like your vice or your go-to and try to make sure that you're not leaning on that vice in order to satisfy your mood that or emotion that you're feeling, which is our next one, your mood. So we want to talk about that because your mood definitely plays into your food choices. Hippocrates was the first to suggest the healing power of food. We've all heard that before. Food kind of makes you feel better, it calms you down, you can feel good. However, it wasn't until the Middle Ages that food was considered a tool to modify temperament and mood. So today, it's recognized that food does influence our mood and has a strong influence over our food choices. So think of it this way. If we are somebody that is on a diet or watching what we're eating, then it can cause a really ambivalent relationship with food. It's this feeling of like, I really want to have this, but I also know it could impact what I've been working towards or the diet that I've really been sticking to and how I've been handling that. So it causes this relationship of the ambivalence with food where it's something that you want and you feel like you can't have. And thus in turn can turn into a craving because you can feel really guilty about having certain foods or eating certain things if it doesn't align with what your strict diet is. So it's really important that in our attempts to restrict or limit certain foods that we recognize that that can cause more cravings and tend to us wanting to eat more of that food. So if you are craving something, and everyone has different things that they crave, for some it's chocolate, for some it's sweet, salty, whatever that is, sometimes totally eliminating that thing can be beneficial for you, and sometimes it can lead to a higher desire of craving, and then once you start, you kind of can't stop. Whereas, for example, I'm just going to use a bag of M&Ms. If you are craving M&Ms, if you take like 5 of those M&Ms and you just enjoy them and pause and think about what you're eating and then put the rest away, now you've satisfied something that you're desiring, and you can eat a different snack to actually fill you up, because 5 M&Ms, there's no way that's going to fill you up. But it satisfies something that you're desiring, but it doesn't cause you to overindulge in something, or it doesn't create an intense craving where it's the only thing that you can think about. I don't know about you, but have you ever had those times where you're like, I really want these M&Ms, but I'm going to eat a yogurt instead. Still really want those. Okay, so I'm going to eat this now instead. I still really want those. Heck, I'm just going to eat them anyway. I've been there. I've done that. And that can happen. So kind of being aware of what your mood is and what you're feeling, and that ambivalent feeling towards food. Now, this is seems kind of obvious, but asking yourself if you're actually hungry. So in a little later, we'll talk about the importance of setting yourself up for successfully having snacks by having food choices that are healthy in your home. But if you have those healthy food choices in your home, so if you have fruits or veggies or another type of snack that is a very healthy, good snack for you, you can always ask yourself, am I hungry enough to eat blank, whatever that healthy snack is? And if you're not, then there's something else going on. Am I bored? Am I thirsty? What emotion am I feeling? Do I need to just go take a walk? Do I need to just like shut down for 5 minutes and lay on the couch and just take a break? Like, what is it that you may actually need? Because sometimes we may think we're hungry, but we're really not. And we actually have a slide in a second that will show a hunger scale that will hopefully be helpful as well. Also, the power of pause. This is a huge tip. It's helped me in so many situations. When you are feeling like you would like a snack or something to eat, it is so good for you to take a moment and pause. Now, that pause can be like right when you're about to open the refrigerator door. You can ask yourself, why am I here? Is this going to help me reach my goals? Will this satisfy a current feeling emotion? Is that why I'm reaching for it? Or am I actually hungry? So take a moment, the power of the pause, stop, think about what you're about to eat, think about what you're going to consume, and then ask yourself those questions. Why am I here? Does this help me reach my goals? Will this satisfy my current feelings and emotion? Is that why I'm eating this? Or is it because it actually satisfies a desire for this food that will benefit my body? Okay, Jamie, you can move on to the next one. So we're going to talk quickly about the hunger scale. Please do not feel like you need to read this. We will send this out in an email afterwards so you can have it. But this hunger scale is just a really good depiction of how you can know when is a good time to eat and when is a good time to just like try something different. You do want to try to eat around a scale of 3 or 4. So when you're eating around that scale, it allows you to make conscious, healthy decisions about what you're feeling and what you would like to eat. Sometimes when we wait too long to eat, we almost get like impatient and we'll just grab whatever easiest, or we get different cravings because we're so hungry or we're just hangry at that point, which is totally me. So we kind of just jump into whatever we have that's going to satisfy this feeling of, I'm so overly hungry, I just need to eat something. So it's really important that we find that balance of actually eating soon enough so you're not experiencing those overly intense desires to choose unhealthy food choices because you've waited too long to satisfy your hunger scale. So there's that warning scale around 7, which you probably are kind of right on that border of maybe potentially making some unhealthy food choices and being aware of that. So again, this is really small print and we do not expect you guys to be able to see or read that part. It's more or less, we're going to send it out after and wanted you guys to be able to see an overview of what it looks like for right now, so you can kind of get a glimpse of what we're talking about as we move into some of the next slides too. I'm going to pass it over to Jamie.
All right, thanks, Kendra. So tip number 2, evaluate, don't eliminate. And Kendra kind of noted this already, but we often feel that in order to make a change in our eating habits, we have to eliminate something completely. And although that can be the case for medical reasons, we want to really focus on more of the mindfulness piece when it comes to our snack choices versus depriving ourselves. So, like she said, when we start to like eliminate or deprive ourselves of a certain food, we end up craving it more. And remember, there's about 200 of those food choices that we make a day, and the majority of them are typically unconscious. So, we actually shared this in our Generating Joy workshop, but our brains receive quadrillion messages a day. And so in order to even process that, it's a lot of times on autopilot. So that's where we want to be. The goal is to be an active participant when it comes to our food choices. So we can consciously approach food with a mindset that we're totally capable of choosing food that serves our goals and gives us energy, right? And I think it's also important too that on the flip side, treating yourself versus cheating yourself, it's kind of this narrative, you want more of a positive narrative when you approach food. So that's really what we want to focus on there. Another piece of mindfulness is that we challenge you to really slow down when eating, and utilize your senses. We've really gotten the habit of eating on the go, eating through our lunches. We work through our lunches rather, and we're just really distracted a lot of times. So really pay attention to your five senses. So what is the color of your food? What's the texture like? Does it have a peel? Is it soft? Is it hard? What does it smell like? Or does it smell what are the smells around you when you're eating? So just really paying attention, the taste, sweet, savory, and just notice that changes your snacking habits when you're more aware of what you're putting into your body. So that's just really important, and we encourage you to give that a shot. If that's something that you currently find yourself being really distracted when you're snacking, it could just be that you just need to slow down and just really appreciate the food that you're putting into your body. So the next point we want to talk about is the food labels, but we think it's important to highlight that the food industry has improved snacking options dramatically. So I'm sure you've seen in the restaurants, I've seen them in Starbucks, but there's a lot of pre-portioned and on-the-go options, which is great because we do have a very active and busy lifestyle. So you'll see the cheese and nut packs, there's salad kits as well. So do things that'll set yourself up for success. And then there's also a lot more whole food options, and the nutritional information available now has definitely increased, as you've probably noticed with the labels, the nutrition labels. They've included more things like sugars versus added sugars. So we just wanted to highlight a couple of those things. So in regards to being that active participant in those food choices, the great way to put that into practice is to really educate yourself when checking the food label. So a couple of examples that we wanted to bring to light is granola is a really great one. So granola is great. It can be a very healthy option in moderation. So I'm one that, I have to be more mindful of this. I will take the bag and dump it into my bowl, or I'll grab a couple of handfuls. And really, if you paid attention, typically granola is half a cup serving. So really try to practice that the next time that you approach snacking in terms of really paying attention to the serving size. Yogurt is a great snack. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's a great protein. However, flavored yogurts tend to have higher sugar content. So again, just being aware of that. Shorter lists of ingredients are typically better when you're checking the food labels. So just be that active participant and just kind of be proud that you take the time to really, make healthy food choices when you can. And then the next point is snack for fuel, not for punishment. So in terms of that, when you choose food to eat, think of it as a nourishment. Will this give me energy? Or if I eat this now, it'll feel good, but I'll probably feel, a sugar crash and all that later. So just really approach it that way. And this can kind of tie into exercise too, because ask yourself the question, do you approach exercise, or do you measure a good workout based on how many calories you burn, or just how good it makes you feel? And sometimes I think we get into that guilt and shame piece of those emotions, that if we had a bad snack, then we exercise just as a punishment to burn off all those calories that we put on. So just be aware of that, do a little bit of reflecting there if you find yourself in that situation. And then the last point here on this slide is add protein. So with your snack choices, what can help you feel more satisfied longer? So if you think about it, if you have some chips, you're probably still going to crave something extra, and Kendra kind of noted to that too. So some protein options is peanut butter with apples, I love. It's one of my favorites. Or you can do peanut butter with celery, like ants on a log, is a great snack, even for the kiddos too. The other one is hummus. So we'll kind of talk about this with planning ahead, but if you have like raw veggies ready to go, great to have in hummus. You could do crackers, but just again, be mindful of what's on the nutrition label with the crackers and hummus. There's cheese, can be a good protein, hard-boiled eggs, and then that Greek yogurt. But again, just watch for the sugar content on that. So adding protein can definitely help a lot with your snack options. Okay, next, tip number 3, hydration and sleep. Both affect our food choices. First, I'm going to highlight hydration, and I'll cover both overeating and metabolism. So first, it's just important to know that water regulates the body's temperature. It cushions and protects our vital organs, and it also aids in digestion, so it is vital. And I think we often confuse the thirst sensation with hunger. So we tend to reach for the snack when in turn we could have just been dehydrated and just needed water. And a way to, I'll mention, studies have shown that drinking water right before a meal or right even before a snack can curb calories consumed. So it can help us from not overeating. They typically recommend you could do 5 to 20 minutes before your meal or snack to drink that water. 8 to 16 ounces would be good. And the goal for water in general is to drink half your body weight in ounces. So it's just really important to have that, and it'll definitely help with avoiding overeating. The next point with metabolism, although drinking water and access won't speed up an individual's metabolism, dehydration can actually certainly slow it down. So again, it's just really important that we keep things flowing. It helps flush out toxins. So it's just really important to get that water content in. And we thought it'd be helpful just to give you a quick couple of tips on ways to stay hydrated if that's something that you struggle with. So keeping a reusable water bottle at your workspace can aid as a nice visual of, okay, I need to keep sipping my water, or wow, I haven't filled that up yet this morning. Maybe I need to drink it faster and go fill it up again. Maybe you put a reminder on your calendar. It may sound silly, but some of us need that accountability. There's plenty of tracker apps to keep if you're one that likes to track how many ounces you're getting. So that's a good way. Make a habit again of drinking that water before the meal or snack. And then opt for water and non-caloric beverages to quench your thirst. Examples of that would be flavoring water with fruits or vegetables or herbs. So you again avoid those sugar crashes of soda and energy drinks. And then also include 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables, which is recommended in your diet because it helps take in more fluid. So those are just a couple of tips on ways to increase your hydration. And then the second piece of this is the sleep. So numerous studies have shown that sleep is a key factor in gaining and losing weight. So when you do not get enough sleep, hormones that control hunger and fullness go haywire. So they're listed there on the screen. So ghrelin increases hunger hormone, and leptin decreases the fullness hormone. So they get produced when you don't have enough sleep, which leaves you feeling hungry all day, and then you lose the ability to know when you're really full. So that can definitely have a huge impact. And then typically when we don't sleep, we tend to be more stressed, and then the hormone cortisol gets released or produced more. And that then tends to increase cravings for starchy, sugary, and fatty foods. So I don't know about you, but that sounds like a recipe for disaster. And then recent studies also on chronic sleep deprivation suggest that calories consumed that you eat are burned less efficiently when you're sleep deprived. So there's a couple of factors that really are up against us when we don't get enough sleep. So we encourage you to aim for at least 7 to 9 hours at night because it really truly does make a big impact. Also, when people don't get enough sleep, it can become more challenging to control your behavior and inhibitions. So you might be more likely to seek pleasure foods like those comfort foods and replace exercise-related activities that you would be good for you to have energy. You you tend to pick the quick fix, such as like scrolling on your phone and watching TV. So just be really mindful of that sleep is super, super important. And a couple of tips for that: prioritize relaxing, stress-free evening activities so you can wind down before bed, avoid electronics with the blue light because it can be very stimulating, reduce or ideally eliminate alcohol and caffeine, especially in the afternoon hours, and then aim to finish dinner about 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. I could definitely work on that one sometime. So those are all things that can help aid in getting better sleep and better quality of sleep. Okay, we got one more tip that we promised you. So plan ahead. So what's for snack time? I'm sure you can relate that with the what's for dinner question. Everyone loves that question. And that really goes back to, that idea of like decision fatigue. Like think about how many decisions you make throughout the day. And then when you're exhausted or stressed out, and then you got to make a decision of, carrots or chips, right? And so it's really important to preparing snacks when you have time will keep you eating healthy during the week when you're short on time. So that's the beauty of planning ahead that we really want to encourage you for. Think about it just like opening up the refrigerator and having healthy food ready for you to choose. So that word ready, like we want what's convenient, what's quick. I mean, I even think about when we get done with class and we got to get my daughter lunch and then you're answering an email. It's just, I need something quick. So set yourself up for success is a really main big takeaway here. And then ways to do that. So portion right away. So like let's say you get home from the grocery store, you're putting your food away, or maybe you're prepping meal prep on a Saturday or Sunday. It's just really helpful to have things portioned out. So again, you're less likely to over consume. Examples of that I have listed here, like parfait in a jar. So we talked about yogurt being a good like protein to have. So again, pay attention to the sugar content, measure out that half a cup of granola, put it in a jar, and it's ready to just grab out and go. I know it sounds silly, but if I have to get the yogurt container out, the granola, and everything else, it just takes those extra steps. And when you're tired or exhausted, once again, this is the better route to go. Another option for portioning out right away is like snack bags. So you can, if you have crackers or something that you're putting in there, or again, portioning out some vegetables is helpful. I know on maternity leave, I actually had portioned smoothie packets. So I put everything, frozen fruit, some oatmeal, I just like different textures, and then I put them in a Ziploc freezer bag, threw them in the freezer, and they were ready to go. All I had to do was dump it in the blender and add milk, and it was like, so nice. So those are different ways that can help you with that. And again, just be that active participant in checking the serving sizes and really try to pay attention to those. Another one is, when you're measuring things out, it helps avoid like eating out of a bag, because again, if you're so distracted, like that's what we're trying to work against. And I'm sure you guys can relate, but right now, like, typically I would pack my lunch and I'd go to work, and I wouldn't, if I didn't have enough food or whatever, that was it. But now being at home, you eat something, you're like, I could go for something more, and the pantry's right there. So it's kind of setting that mental intention that when you portion something out and have something ready, you're like, this is what I have set and this is what I'm going to have. Okay. Last thing is just double down here. So what does that mean? If you have tacos for dinner, let's say you have leftover tacos or make extra, you can put them in little small peppers, add some cheese to it, bake it in the oven, and now you have a healthy spin on healthy nachos. So that's the way that you can do that. Or I'll make my energy bites and then make double of that and then just freeze them. So again, I have some if I didn't have the time to prep them on the weekend. I'm going to take it back to Kendra, just the last couple of things we want to leave you guys with to remember for today.
We'll wrap it up with a couple remember this. So first of all, leave it at the store. Things that are at the store don't have any chance of being consumed in your home. As soon as they are brought home, they have a 100% chance of consumption. So when you are at the store and you make a list, stick to the list. It's so easy to like just walk by something and be like, oh yeah, that sounds good, and throw it in your cart. Stick to your list, leave it at the store. A lot less likely that you are going, well, it's not likely that you're going to eat it at all because it won't be at your home. Second, I always have people tell me, well, I buy stuff for my husband or for my kids or for someone else that's in your home. And for some reason, it's okay for them to eat, but it's not okay for you to eat. So think about that and the message that you're sending to other people in your family in that regard. So if it's not okay for you, then why is it okay for them? Meaning, like, you don't have to deprive yourself of everything. Like, it is okay for you to enjoy different things, and we are not about like totally eliminating stuff. But at the same time, like setting good examples and trying to choose healthier options in that sense as well. So kind of keep that in mind when you are purchasing food at the store.
And then just a few other ones. Water first, veggies most can be a great saying to just, when you're approaching food, okay, water first, help to avoid overconsumption. And then veggies most, they're lower in calories and you can eat a higher volume of them. And they have amazing nutrients. The next one, if I bite it, I should write it. So you think it's just one bite, but one bite turns into 2 and 3. So really, like, if you really want to pay attention to how much you're taking in or where you might be tripping yourself up, it would be great to just write it down and just get a nice visual of what you're eating and, again, why. It's kind of thinking about those different emotions when you're approaching food. Fork down, drink up. Remember the mindfulness. Go slower. Grab some water in between. Remember, digestion starts in your mouth, so it's that slowing down and chewing and just noticing all those different textures. And then lastly,
just punish yourself. It's okay if you make a mistake, get right back on it and keep going. So thank you guys. We had so much stuff to share with you, and there's even more, but we hope that you guys enjoyed today's presentation, and thank you for being here. And if you have any questions, let us know. We'll put the presentation up to share as well, and we'll send out that hunger scale. So have a great day.